So hello and welcome to Kor'kron Dark Shaman encounter 10 men normal in the Siege of Orgrimmar raid. And if you don't know this encounter, if you did not learn it or if you did not watch any guides, this fight might seem really hard and very panicky. A lot of people actually have problem with this encounter, but it's not too difficult. Okay, we killed it on our second pull and the first pull was kinda like, well, let's just pull it and see what it does, and we got them down to 40% health. Now for this fight you want to bring 2 tanks, 3 healers. I would definitely recommend 3 healers, it's much easier, and the rest DPS. Range DPS and cleave DPS being much better than melee DPS. And before I go over the abilities, couple of tips. Clear as many thrash packs as possible. Don't leave any of them inside like an auction house or any other houses. Just clean as much as you can, because in both of our pulls we thought we're not gonna pull those guys, but the abilities that the bosses do are really big, so you're probably gonna pull pretty much everything that is within this arena. Another tip is don't bloodlust at pull. Don't bloodlust on pull. It might seem like a great idea because you have 2 of the shamans, both of them ride wolves. You want to kill the wolves as fast as possible, so you have 4 targets. Might seem like a great idea, right? Everyone's alive, everyone has all their cooldowns, and they will have all their procs. But the bosses themselves have bloodlust, and they will bloodlust at 25% of their health, which means the damage will start to get really high and you want to kill them as fast as possible. It's kind of like a soft and rage thing. So save bloodlust for 25%. And the last very important tip is be extremely observant. Okay, these bosses will do a lot of ground effects. And because we're in Orgrimmar, the terrain is not flat. There's a lot of hills, and the particle effects for these ground abilities like to clip through the floor. For instance, here our priest gets killed because he thought he was safe, but actually there's an ability going on, and pretty much 10% of that ability is underground, but it's still gonna hit him and kill him. So be really careful. And the last thing I want to say before I go over the abilities is these bosses do share hit points, so don't worry about killing them within a certain amount of time. So the first thing is, these bosses will drop totems. These totems will give them new abilities and you cannot destroy these totems, alright? So let's start with Earthbreaker Harem. Froststorm Strike. Strikes a player with frost-line weapons, inflicting 300,000 frost damage and causing the player to take 25 additional damage from Froststorm Strike for 30 seconds. This effect stacks, so this is the tank debuff. Toxic Mist. Injects several players with the Toxic Mist, inflicting 80,000 nature damage every 3 seconds for 30 seconds and causing growing toxicity. Now, toxicity will increase nature damage taken by 10% per stack. And due to the internal nature of the corruption, Toxic Mist pierces all immunities. And this ability is granted by Poison Mist Totem. Foulstream, a stream of foul liquid inflicting 300,000 nature damage to all enemies on a line. This ability is granted by a Foulstream totem. Ashen Wall summons a line of stationary ash elementals that will attack anything nearby. And this ability is granted by an Ashflare totem. So this is basically just a wall of elementals, and they will hit anything that tries to run through this wall. You can still run through it, but there's a problem. These elementals can crit, so you can actually get 1 hit when you run through this. So run around it or use personal cooldowns or stuff like Blink. The second shaman is called Wavebinder Cardis. Now she will hit a tank with something called Froststorm Bolt. Fires a bolt of bitter frost inflicting 400,000 frost damage, and she will use this throughout the entire fight. Toxic Storm summons a powerful Toxic Storm that inflicts 300,000 nature damage to all players within 9 yards every 2 seconds and periodically creates Toxic Tornadoes. These Toxic Tornadoes will inflict 300,000 nature damage to players within 5 yards of it every second and will knock them up into the air. The storm itself will move around the room and will last for 1 minute. This ability is granted by Poison Mist Totem. Foulgazer. Conjure foul water that inflicts 300,000 nature damage to players within 3.5 yards every half a second for 8 seconds. Each splash creates a foul slime. This ability is granted by Foulstream Totem, and the foul slimes themselves don't have an awful lot of health, but you need to kill them because they have an area of effect. They have an aura that inflicts 100,000 nature damage to everyone within 3 yards every second. And this is why melee are rubbish on this fight. If you have 8 of these slimes, they will pulse for 800,000 damage every second, which means that if you get close to them, you will just die. So bring as much range DPS as possible. And the last ability, Falling Ash, summons a core of smoldering ash that will fall over 15 seconds, inflicting 1 million fire damage to everyone within 17 yards and 300,000 fire damage to everyone in the raid. And this ability is granted by an ash flare totem. And now that we know what the hell is going on the screen, we can go over the tactics. So this is how we dealt with them. And the biggest problem in this fight, believe it or not, is even though the arena is absolutely massive, you can still run out of space, and you need to manage where the area of effect, ground effects, are placed. So how we dealt with this is you can't tank these bosses in one spot. They will just throw shit around them all the time. So our tank started rotating them counterclockwise around the entire room, and this is why you want to clear all the houses, because as you're doing this, if you did not clear all the houses, everything is gonna pull and you're gonna fight additional mobs, which is something you really don't want to do. Ranged and healers tried to stick to the center of the room so you don't have to move too much, and we just tried to stick in a big group, and when something was about to land on us, we just moved as a group. It was much better for healing. And here's the thing, if you stick as a group, there's a chance that these abilities will be layered on top of each other, which means you will save a lot of space, which is something you really want to do in this fight. The next very important thing is managing Foulstreams. It's the ability that creates a huge line from the boss to the player. Now, if you're targeted by this, you will have this huge shaft of green light shining on your character. You can't miss this ability, okay? And after a short delay, a line will be cast going from the boss towards the player. This line is very long and it's kind of wide. It's not too wide though, but it does 300,000 nature damage. So, what do you need to do? You need to run away with this. You need to run away from the raid, because if you're gonna hit anyone, that's really bad. The biggest problem here is you can very easily hit the tank, so please be careful and try not to hit the tanks, because the tanks are already taking quite a bit of damage. The next very important thing is dealing with the foul slimes. These won't appear all at once, they will appear one after another, and they will get aggro on the tank, and each one of these slimes will deal 100,000 nature damage every second to him, so your tank needs to kind of start kiting them around, and your ranged DPS need to just unload on them. Alright? If you have 7 of them, that's 700,000 nature damage every second if they reach the tank. Which, if you have like a DK, that's fine. We have 2 DKs and they were okay with dealing with those. But if you have a tank that can't really deal with magic damage well, like Guardian Druid, you need to be even faster than we were. But generally just your tanks need to run around. They can't really be within 3 yards of those. And your ranged DPS need to really focus them down hard. So these were the 2 most important abilities to deal with, okay? The other abilities are kind of like just don't stand in them. But these 2 can actually wipe you, and you need to deal with them as best as you can. The next thing that can actually wipe you is tank swapping. Because Harem is stacking the Froststorm Strike debuff on one of your tanks, he can't tank him the entire fight because he will just die. So you need to tank swap. But if you tank swap at the wrong time, you can get hit by Harem's Froststorm Strike and Cardis' Froststorm Bolt at the same time, and if you get hit by anything else, you will die. That's just way too much damage. So the best way to deal with this is either use a DR if you're not sure, or wait for both of them to cast their ability and then tank swap, just to be safe. And as I've said at the beginning, just Bloodlust at 25%, okay? So I wish you good luck against this boss. This boss is awesome. It's a lot of fun. I thank you all for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in another guide. Bye bye.